is silence dark, whispers in the midnight park. The night is cold, there's no escape. Ghostly figures take their shape.
Hello horror lovers, I'm Josh Bell, your guide into the twisted world of Real Talk Horror Edition, where we dissect and dive deep into the creepiest, most outrageous films the horror genre has to offer. Whether you're a fan of classic slashers, disturbing psychological thrillers, or the latest grotesque gore fest, we've got you covered. Today, we're finishing up our series on the films of Rob Zombie. We're talking about his foray into family horror with his take on the Munsters. Here at Real Talk Horror Edition, we do more than just review films. We break them down, analyzing not just what's on screen, but what's beneath the surface. We dive into the unique elements that make these films stand out, from narrative structure and character development to themes and visual style. We look at how directors craft the mood, manipulate fear, and push boundaries, which brings us to our focus today, Rob Zombie. Over the last few episodes, we've been taking a deep dive into his entire filmography, exploring the hallmarks of his style and what he's brought to the horror genre. As a musician turned director, Zombie's films, we've noticed, are a unique blend of grindhouse aesthetics, brutal violence, dark humor, and a twisted take on Americana. They often dive into the ugly side of society, from the decay of small-town America to the exploitation and chaos hidden behind the curtain of civility. Each episode, we have looked at a different film in his filmography, in chronological order. So before we dive into today's new episode, let's look at the films we've covered in this series so far. Starting with 2003's House of a Thousand Corpses, Zombie's directorial debut, which introduced audiences to his chaotic and visceral style, a wild ride through a deranged family's twisted funhouse of horror, blending 70s grindhouse vibes with grotesque imagery. Then it was 2005's The Devil's Rejects, the brutal sequel that solidified Zombie's reputation for unapologetic violence and character-driven horror, a dark road movie following the Firefly family as they escape justice and leave a trail of carnage behind. Next up was 2007's Halloween, Zombie's controversial reimagining of John Carpenter's classic, giving Michael Myers a deeper backstory and darker motivation, while maintaining the slasher thrills that made the original a hit. Then was 2009's Halloween 2, a divisive sequel that leans heavily into the surreal and psychological, turning the typical slasher formula on its head while exploring the trauma of both Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Then we looked at 2012's The Lords of Salem, a strange psychedelic descent into witchcraft and the occult, with a focus on mood and atmosphere over traditional horror beats. This film showed Zombie's ability to experiment with form and tone. 2016's 31 was next, a grueling grindhouse-inspired survival horror where a group of carnival workers is haunted or hunted by psychotic killers in a twisted game. It's chaotic, violent, and offbeat, and we've covered the ins and outs of it in a previous episode. And most recently was Three from Hell in 2019, the long-awaited continuation of the Firefly family saga, following Baby, Otis, and this time the Midnight Wolfman, as they escape death and embark on another bloody rampage. This film marked the return of Zombie's iconic characters, albeit with a slightly more subdued, character-focused narrative compared to its predecessors. While it didn't pack the shock factor, Three from Hell offered a more contemplative look at the Firefly family's survival and their place in the bloody horror world they inhabit. In today's episode, we're taking a closer look at 2022's The Munsters, Zombie's most recent film. And you heard that right, Rob Zombie directing The Munsters. At first glance, it may seem like an odd fit. The dark, demented mind behind House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, taking on a family-friendly classic sitcom? But trust me, there's a lot more here than meets the eye. We'll explore how Zombie's love for the campy, retro aesthetics of The Munsters collides with his signature, subversive style, and whether this film fits into his broader cinematic universe. So stick with me as we unpack The Munsters, answering some big questions about Rob Zombie's approach to filmmaking, his relationship with the past, and how he continues to evolve as an artist. Let's dive right in. Released in 2022, Rob Zombie's The Munsters is a family-friendly reboot of the beloved 1960s sitcom. And yes, you heard that right. The man who brought us The Lords of Salem and the 2007 Halloween took on the wholesome world of Herman, Lily, and Grandpa Munster. The film stars, as always, Sherry Moon Zombie as Lily, and then we have Jeff Daniel Phillips as Herman and Daniel Roebuck as Grandpa. The Munsters serves as an origin story, chronicling Herman and Lily's courtship and their move to 1313 Mockingbird Lane. This setup offers a fresh perspective on these iconic characters, aiming to show how this lovable yet unconventional family came together. This is a departure from Zombie's usual fare, leaning into colorful visuals and slapstick humor instead of blood and gore. The production was a labor of love for Zombie, who's a self-proclaimed superfan of the original series. He's spoken extensively about his deep affection for the Munsters, which he grew up watching. From the film's vibrant, over-the-top set design to its quirky, nostalgic tone, Zombie's dedication to capturing the essence of the original is evident, but bringing this vision to life wasn't easy. Budget constraints posed a significant challenge. Reportedly, Zombie had to make tough decisions to stay within financial limits, which included filming in Budapest to stretch the budget as far as possible. The decision to go PG-rated also marked a dramatic tonal shift for Zombie, who's better known for his hard R-rated, gore-soaked projects. For a filmmaker synonymous with brutal, grindhouse-inspired horror, this pivot into family-friendly territory raised eyebrows long before the film was ever released. When it finally premiered, The Munsters received mixed to negative reviews. While some praised Zombie's earnest attempt to honor the source material, others found the humor stale, the pacing uneven. Fans of the original sitcom were split. Some appreciated the faithful nods to the show's aesthetic and spirit, while others felt the film lacked the charm that made the series a classic. Critics, too, were unsure of how to categorize the movie. Was it a tribute, a parody, or simply a misfire? For many, Zombie's bold, chaotic style felt at odds with the playful innocence of the Munsters. Still, the film's bright, campy energy and clear reverence for its source material made it fascinating, if flawed, addition to Zombie's filmography. The Munsters stands out as Zombie's most polarizing project. Whether you're a fan of his work or just curious about this oddball entry in his career, it's worth unpacking what makes this film both unique and divisive. So let's break down The Munsters. First, we'll talk about themes and the style of The Munsters, which showcases Rob Zombie's signature creative fingerprints, albeit through a much lighter lens than his usual work. Visually, the film is a kaleidoscope of saturated colors and exaggerated set designs that pay homage to the classic Technicolor productions. The vibrant greens, purples, and oranges practically leap off the screen, creating a cartoonish, larger-than-life aesthetic that mirrors the over-the-top humor of the original sitcom. Zombie clearly aimed to capture the spirit of the Munsters with a visual language that feels nostalgic, yet distinctly his own. Thematically, the film focuses on family and belonging, echoing the core values of the 60s show. Herman and Lily's romance is at the heart of the story, highlighting themes of love and acceptance despite their ghoulish exteriors. The Munsters have always been a family that celebrates individuality, and Zombie's version doesn't stray from this foundational message. However, this thematic consistency is where things get complicated. Zombie's chaotic energy, characterized by rapid-fire edits, exaggerated performances, and a love for absurdity, often clashes with the lighthearted tone he's striving for. While his gritty, grindhouse sensibilities are toned down, traces of his usual style seep through, creating a tonal dissonance. For instance, the slapstick humor occasionally feels forced, as if Zombie is holding back his natural instincts to maintain the PG rating. The film's pacing further complicates the tonal balance. Some scenes linger too long on visual gags or quirky dialogue, disrupting the flow and making the story feel uneven. While the original Munsters thrived on episodic charm, Zombie's attempt to stretch this dynamic into a feature-length narrative exposes weakness in both the script and direction. Despite these shortcomings, there's no denying Zombie's passion for the material. His reverence for the Munsters shines through in the meticulous set design, the lovingly crafted costumes, and the playful nods to the sitcom's iconic moments. It's clear that Zombie wanted to create a love letter to the original series, even if the final product doesn't fully deliver on its promise. The themes and style of the Munsters reflect a fascinating, flawed experiment. Zombie's attempt to merge his gritty aesthetic with the whimsical world of the Munsters is ambitious, but the execution leaves much to be desired. Still, it's a testament to his willingness to take risks and step outside his comfort zone, even if the results are a little polarizing. Sherry Moon Zombie's portrayal of Lily Munster is an earnest effort that showcases her signature charm, but it's not without its challenges. She leans heavily into Lily's ethereal, bubbly personality, delivering a performance brimming with whimsy. However, her delivery sometimes ventures too far into caricature, sacrificing the emotional depth needed to make her relatable. This imbalance can create a disconnect for viewers who might struggle to invest in her character's journey. While it's clear she has fun with the role, some nuance is lost in her exuberance of her portrayal. Jeff Daniel Phillips takes on the iconic role of Herman Munster with unbridled enthusiasm, injecting his performance with the kind of energy one might expect from Herman. His portrayal is brash, boisterous, and larger than life. However, this approach can be polarizing, as his exaggerated delivery occasionally crosses over the top territory, potentially alienating viewers who prefer a subtler interpretation. Still, Phillips' commitment to his character's goofy, good-natured charm is admirable, and his chemistry with Sherry Moon Zombie's Lily is evident in their playful interactions. Daniel Roebuck's performance as Grandpa Munster, on the other hand, is an undeniable highlight of the film. Roebuck's comedic timing is perfect, capturing the snarky wit and larger-than-life presence that made Grandpa such a beloved character in the original series. He brings a balance of nostalgia and originality to the role, honoring the character's roots while infusing it with his unique flair. His scenes often steal the spotlight, providing some of the most memorable and entertaining moments in the movie. Supporting characters, while not as prominently featured, add texture to the film. Richard Brake's Dr. Henry Augustus Wolfgang is delightfully eccentric, channeling a mad scientist vibe that fits seamlessly into the quirky world of the Munsters. Cassandra Peterson, best known as Elvira, makes a brief but delightful appearance that's sure to please fans of both zombie and classic horror. These performances, though limited in screen time, contribute to the film's eclectic charm. One of the film's undeniable strengths is its production design. Zombie and his team have painstakingly recreated the gothic whimsy of the original Munsters series. From the intricate interiors of 1313 Mockingbird Lane to the vibrant, saturated color palette, every visual element feels lovingly crafted. The film's aesthetic pays homage to that classic Technicolor films of the era, with exaggerated sets and costumes that immerse the audience in a playful, otherworldly version of 60s Americana. This attention to detail is a testament to Zombie's reverence for the source material and helps ground the film in its quirky, nostalgic roots. And Zombie's passion for the Munsters shines through in every frame. His deep affection for the original series is evident in the care he takes to replicate its tone and aesthetic. Certain scenes, particularly those involving physical comedy or clever nods to classic horror tropes, exude a sense of fun and creativity that aligns perfectly with the spirit of the show. These moments offer glimpses of what the film could have been at its best, a loving tribute with its own unique twist. Despite its visual strengths, the film struggles with uneven pacing. Some sequences are lively and engaging, while others drag unnecessarily, disrupting the rhythm and making the 110-minute runtime feel longer than it should. The pacing issues are compounded by humor that often falls flat. Many of the jokes rely on repetitive gags or overly simplistic setups that fail to resonate, leaving the comedy feeling forced rather than organic. The tonal dissonance between Zombie's signature style and the family-friendly nature of the Munsters is another significant challenge. Known for his gritty, chaotic, and edgy approach to filmmaking, Zombie attempts to restrain his instincts here in favor of a more wholesome tone. While this shift broadens the film's potential audience, it also hampers its cohesion. Moments that could have been bold and inventive are often subdued, leaving the film feeling restrained and at times uninspired. In his attempt to balance homage with originality, Zombie doesn't fully succeed at either. The result is a film that struggles to find its identity, wavering between a heartfelt tribute and a reimagined take that never quite gels. While The Munsters has its moments of charm, it ultimately falls short of its potential, and it leaves us with a product that's neither groundbreaking reinterpretation nor a satisfying nostalgic throwback. Watching The Munsters was a mixed bag for me. My initial reaction was confusion. Why would Rob Zombie, known for his gritty, blood-soaked horror films, take on such a dramatically different project? At first, it felt like a complete departure from his usual style, which left me unsure about what to expect. The vibrant colors, slapstick humor, the lack of violence were a stark contrast to the grindhouse aesthetics he's famous for. I found myself questioning whether this was the right fit for him as a filmmaker. However, when I rewatched it for this podcast, I started to appreciate Zombie's ambition and the occasional moments of charm that shine through. It's clear that this film was a passion project for him, and his love for the original Munsters series is undeniable. Some of the scenes exude a sense of fun that feels genuine, and the attention to detail in the production design shows his dedication to honoring the source material. The saturated colors and the over-the-top set pieces felt like a love letter to the campy gothic vibe of the 60s sitcom, which I could respect even if it didn't always work for me. That said, it's hard not to compare the Munsters to Zombie's earlier work and feel underwhelmed. His signature chaotic energy is noticeably muted here, and while that makes the film more accessible to a broader audience, it also strips away some of the boldness that usually defines his projects. The result is a film that feels restrained, as though Zombie was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So while I admire Zombie for stepping out of his comfort zone and attempting something so different, I couldn't help but feel like the final product didn't quite hit the mark. It's an interesting experiment and a testament to his versatility, but it left me longing for the grit and intensity of earlier films. Still, I can see how fans of the original series might enjoy this as maybe a nostalgic trip down memory lane. So who should watch the Munsters? First and foremost, if you're a hardcore Rob Zombie fan and a completist, it's worth checking out to see a completely different side of his filmmaking. This film provides a rare opportunity to explore Zombie's lighter, more whimsical side, offering a glimpse into his versatility as a creator. For fans of the original 1960s sitcom, there's a layer of nostalgia that might make it an enjoyable watch, but I'd advise tempering your expectations. This isn't a groundbreaking reinterpretation or a seamless continuation of the beloved series. Instead, it's more of a quirky homage, filtered through Zombie's unique lens. For the best experience, I recommend approaching the film with an open mind and a lighthearted mood. If you go into it expecting the gritty horror of Devil's Rejects, you're bound to be disappointed. Instead, think of it as a curiosity in Zombie's filmography, a creative detour where his experiments with family-friendly storytelling and vibrant aesthetics. If you're the kind of viewer who enjoys campy humor, exaggerated, over-the-top performances, and bold visual production design, there's fun to be had here. That said, it's important to acknowledge that the Munsters isn't for everyone. Casual viewers with little attachment to the original series or Zombie's work might find the film disjointed and overly stylized. The humor is hit or miss, and the pacing issues might test your patience. However, if you're willing to embrace its quirks and focus on the positives, like the colorful sets and Daniel Roebuck's performance as Grandpa, you might find it to be an entertaining, flawed experience. As for my final verdict, I'm giving the Munsters a 4 out of 10. It's an interesting experiment and a commendable attempt to step outside of Zombie's usual wheelhouse. While it falls short of its potential, it's not without its charms. Ultimately, it's a film for people like me, completists, whether you're a Rob Zombie enthusiast or a Munsters superfan. For everyone else, it might be worth a watch on a lazy afternoon, but it's far from essential viewing. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Real Talk Horror Edition and our Rob Zombie series as a whole. So what did you think of the Munsters? Did Rob Zombie manage to capture the quirky charm and family-centric spirit of the original series? Or do you think it was a misfire? I'd love to hear your take. You can share your thoughts with me on social media or in the comments section. Let's keep the conversation going. Now we're going to take a week off while we get our next series in order. I want to thank you for joining me on this journey through Rob Zombie's unique contributions to horror cinema, whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer to his work. I hope you found these deep dives insightful and entertaining. And don't worry, I'll be back soon with another fascinating corner of horror to explore. The next series will be packed with fresh takes, intriguing analysis, and of course, plenty of spooky fun, because we are going to dive into psychological horror. We have 21 films lined up that show all different sides of psychological horror, from the great to those that miss the mark, and the different sub-series within psychological horror. But in the meantime, make sure you're following the podcast on your favorite platforms so you don't miss any updates. If you enjoyed this episode, or even if you didn't but want to engage in a lively debate, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with your fellow horror fans. Your support helps keep the spooky conversations alive and ensures we can bring you fresh content. Before I go, I want to leave you with a question to ponder until the next episode. What do you think about Zombie's approach to the Munsters says about his evolution as a horror filmmaker? Drop your thoughts online. I'm genuinely curious to see where you stand. And again, come see me on Instagram and Threads at RealRealTalk, or email me therealrealtalk@gmail.com. Thank you again for tuning in, horror fans. Until next time, stay spooky, stay safe, and keep celebrating the weird, wonderful world of horror cinema.
Creeping through the silence dark, whispers in the midnight park. The night is cold, there's no escape. Ghostly figures take their shape. Twisted game, fear and terror stake their claim. Footsteps follow close behind, haunting thoughts invade your mind. Run away, but they won't go. In the darkness, fear will grow. Midnight shadows come to play. In your dreams, they'll always stay. Windows rattle, doors they creak. Ghostly whispers start to speak. Every corner hides a fear. Close your eyes, they're drawing near. Candles flicker, spirits call. In the night they'll take it all. Midnight strikes, the clocks rewind. Nightmares now are intertwined. Run away, but they won't go. In the darkness, fear will grow. Midnight shadows come to play. In your dreams, they'll always stay.